we're back.
We're back. Just like that. It's gone
Just
so
like
quick.
Just like that.
All right, let's get started.
Okay.
Because I think it's a pretty good topic this week we're going to talk about.
But because it's about you.
It is. It's pretty exciting. I don't think we've really, you and I have talked about it, but we haven't really unpacked it with
Also, people are probably just sick of hearing about me. Which
Anyway.
is fine.
I like hearing about you, so that's all right.
Thanks, Dave.
What is your thought of the week?
Okay, you ready for it?
Yeah.
I even had to write it down so that I can get it out properly. Because it's funny. Brushing your teeth is the only time you clean your skeleton.
Oh my god.
Gross, eh?
That is gross, but I love it.
Like,
I love
when
brushing
you
my
really
teeth.
think about it.
Yeah, that's gross. And
Like-
it's true. Like, you don't just brush your bones.
No.
Mm.
No, you don't.
Teeth are a really weird thing.
And like, your eyeballs, if you are dead, like, they don't stay.
No.
But your teeth do.
Yeah. They
You
stay
just-
around
Clean them every day.
forever. If you're hygienic with your teeth.
Twice a day.
Yeah,
Every day.
absolutely.
Minimum.
You know, my dad brushes his after every single meal.
That's next level.
Yeah, and he's got the most beautiful.
Does he
white
floss
teeth.
too?
He floss. He uses an electric toothbrush,
Yeah.
and then the dentist even said he brushes that much it breaks down his enamel. But he said continue to do it. We'll just build it back up.
My husband's the same. Brushes too hard,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah, but apparently they don't mind it. So.
Yeah, well, they get up him and they're like, stop brushing so hard.
Different dentist.
Do you use a electric toothbrush?
Nah, I just use a normal.
I have both, but I mix it up.
I don't like the vibration.
Yeah, sometimes I gag.
I get it. I don't. I feel like my whole head's like, especially in the mornings.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot for that
normal
though.
toothbrush. And then is your toothbrush soft bristles, medium or hard?
Medium.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, because hard is too hard and you just cut up your gums.
Yeah,
And soft is doing nothing.
absolutely.
Soft's just
medium
a little
between.
Soft's just a little rub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
need in between.
As I
Because
use
you
my-
need to feel like you get
As I
it
use
out.
my finger if I'm going to use a soft toothbrush.
Yeah, gross. All right, mine isn't a thought of the week, but it's a fun fact.
Okay.
And I think it's funny, but I don't have the answer, so don't ask me why. It is physically impossible for pigs to look up into the sky.
False. That's false. That's not.
How do you know that?
That's a false fact.
Have you seen that?
Because you just look in the distance.
Yeah, but look up into the sky, like I assume like that.
Maybe their necks just don't go
As far back? Don't know. Can your pug?
Yeah, he can look up for you for snacks.
Yeah,
he can look at the sky.
True. And we'd be like the sky to him because he's so small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pigs.
Yeah.
And why? He's not a pig.
No, I'm just asking.
Are you referring to him as a
No,
pig?
I would never. But maybe something we should look into more.
It's
and see
more
if we
like
can
a
find the
salad.
answer.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just like neck mobility,
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon that's probably a good answer
Stiff
for
neck.
that one.
stiff neck
Yeah.
is a diagnosis.
It's just like.
Imagine that. Just
Yeah, no. Well, I've been like that before when I've hurt my neck. It's not fun.
yeah,
Mm.
it's not.
No.
Most people have been there. I think if you've slept wrong
Yeah.
and then you're trying to drive and you're like.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
You can't.
It's the worst.
So I thought today, as I said before, we could talk about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and we just get the audience get to know you a little bit better because you're an interesting person. And you like to keep things on the DL, on the down low, for no one who knows what that is.
Yeah.
You just like cruise and you just go about your life, but you actually have had a very interesting life. We've had similar but different upbringings, and I think that there's probably lots of reasons that have led you to the path that you're on. But probably what we're going to talk about might give people a little bit more insight too, and whether that's contributed to where you are now.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, you have a brother
Mm-hmm.
that has a mental health diagnosis.
Yeah.
What is that?
So it's paranoid or drug-induced paranoid schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So should I just get into it?
Yeah, just go.
Sure. So when to start off with, I've got one older brother. So he's the one diagnosed with that. He is 36 this year. I'm 31. 20.
Sorry,
no,
how old are you this year?
I'm 32 this year.
Well, don't do him dirty like that.
And we have the same mum and dad. And then I've got a younger brother that's 25 this year, which is wild to think. But we've got the same mum, so different dads. And then I've got a younger sister who we have the same dad but different mums.
Yeah.
So when
just shout out, because he treats all of you like
my dad.
Yeah, your dad.
He's the best.
Treats everyone as if they're all his kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, and always has.
Yeah, he's the goat.
Yeah, he is. So my older brother, he is obviously older than me. So mum and dad got married when I was very young. I think I was like, I don't even know if I was born yet, but they got married young. So my older brother, he would have been about 4 when they got married, and then they also split up at a young age. So I was so young, I can't even remember it, but he was probably 6 or 7. So that was a huge impact on his like emotional well-being and trying to understand why that had happened.
Yeah.
So
it's
that
like super traumatic in its own way, right?
Absolutely. And I think you can sort of think that it's not and live with it, but I think down under or deeply it does affect you. Especially in that age when it's so important, that younger age. Anyway, so they did break up, and then we moved a little bit. So we were in Toowoomba for a little bit, and then we went to Tamworth, and then we came back, and we were changing houses. And in that time, Dad was super stable in Toowoomba, so that's where he stayed. But he would come drive to us every second weekend, even if it was in Tamworth. So he'd come see us, sometimes bring us back, and then take us back between working his jobs, etc. And he was a very busy man as well. Then probably when he got into high school, he started getting like suspended, hanging out with the wrong people, getting involved in drugs. And then as that progressed, my brother, we were living with mum at the time. And so Dad would only see my brother every second weekend or so, and mum was a single mum. And I think we just thought that's like seeing aggression from him, the drug use, physical aggression and verbal aggression, sort of retreating to his room more, being that paranoia as well. We thought that was
just like him. Just a youth teenager, just rebelling a little bit, struggling with, life.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dad wouldn't see it that often, and it's sort of as he got to that teenage age too, he wouldn't go to Dad's as much because he's hanging out with his friends, and even Dad would make comment, he's at that age where he doesn't need to hang out with us, like he's hanging out with his friends, etc. So nothing really ever come of it, but it was quite horrific, like being in the household with him. Specifically for my younger brother as well, like they would fight a lot.
So how old were you at this point, you think, roughly?
It would have been from the age of 12 to when I moved out of home, which was 15.
Yeah.
Where I saw it the most.
Yeah.
But then obviously I left home, so that reduced.
So you're 12 and he's probably, 16, 17 roughly?
Yeah. And he started he actually had a baby with his girlfriend at the time, so they had a baby, and that was really rough for him as well. I think obviously being so young and adapting to that, he didn't really have work. It was like sporadic work. He was still living at home. So they had the baby and then they ended up breaking up. So I think that was another sort of trigger point for him, which made him revert to drug use and
Yeah.
everything like that.
And so at what age was he diagnosed?
With schizophrenia?
Yeah.
He would have been, it was only 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
So when he was 30. And so we've just jumped. So my questions just made us jump like, nearly 15 years, over a decade. What happened in that other decade?
So
what was that like?
Yeah, well, he was still living with mum throughout that whole time. Very paranoid, wouldn't leave the house, and it just progressively got worse.
Yeah.
Wouldn't leave the house, paranoid, continued verbal aggression, people showing up to the house, like asking where their money is, because obviously he was owing money to people. He ended up putting cameras up in his room and outside the house because he was that paranoid. And to be honest, I wasn't at home. So I had left home throughout this time. So my mum was dealing with this the most. And I think she really thought it was just who he was.
And so you're 15. Where are you living at this point?
I was living out of home in a shared house, finishing school.
With other teenagers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. Yeah, finishing school, and I graduated, which I was pretty proud of, living out of home. But I still had a great relationship with my mum.
Yeah.
And then my dad as well. But
yeah.
Me and mum just couldn't live together. Like at that age, I think you just clash a little bit. And then dad also had a new baby come into my little sister with his partner at the time. And so I didn't really want to crash in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And so he's continued living with your mum. Did things only really change once he was diagnosed, or was there just this repetitive pattern up until that point? What was the point in time where it's like, this is not normal, or like he needs more help?
Yeah. So mum found a partner. This was 7-8 years ago. She found a partner, and eventually they decided to shift location and follow his work. So they moved down to New South Wales, and then at that point my brother had nowhere to go.
Right.
So he moved in with dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your dad, I'm assuming, is maybe who sort of pushed the progression around a diagnosis and further help.
He definitely was pushing for further help, but my brother denied the help. Obviously, when you're diagnosed with something like that, a lot of people think they don't have a mental health issue, and it's because it's so real for them.
We see that all the time.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, that's not isolated to your brother. We see that with many people that sit in the mental health space where it's their reality.
Absolutely.
Very much their reality. And so it's really difficult to tell someone that that's not real or that's not happening or whatever, because for them it is.
Yeah. And it was exactly that. And he would be like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not paranoid. These things are actually happening. I'm hearing this or I'm seeing this.
Yeah.
Because he's got visual and auditory hallucinations.
Yeah.
And then when he was living with dad, it was a short time that he was living with dad, I got a call from dad, and he said that your brother's been taken to mental health, and they're thinking of they're thinking he's got schizophrenia. And I was like, what happened? Because while I knew something was wrong, or not wrong, while I knew that he had a mental health issue, I just assumed that wasn't the case, because it was never done. Like,
it was normal.
Yeah,
right?
That it was just him, and that's all I can remember, really. But I said, how did he end up there? Because I knew that dad was trying to get him help, but he would never pursue that. And he used to hang out at the local shopping centre a lot, and he became really paranoid about the police officer at the police beat at the shopping centre. And he wrote a note pretty much saying, if you don't stop following me, I'm going to have to kill you, or you need to be locked up for life. Yeah. So then obviously they took that very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that kind of one thing led to another.
Yeah. And he was put into mental health. He was put on a treatment authority.
And so how long was he on a treatment authority for? How long did he spend in mental health?
He was in mental health for about a month. So not...
Yeah. It was not long.
Not long compared to what we see sometimes. And then I think because obviously he had the support network of Dad and he was medicated immediately. At this point, he was not medicated at all. Like zero medication.
Yeah.
And often we will see people regress even if they're medicated.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the degree that they were at, like of regression, but they would regress in some. But he was not medicated at all.
Yeah.
And then, so he was put on medication, and then he was let out and was able to go back into the community. So he went back with Dad. And there would be incidents here and there where he would become paranoid about something, but that was able to be dealt with at home rather than it going into the community or putting someone else at harm.
And so at this point, he was still living like quite independently once he come out of mental health.
Yeah,
he was,
just with the support of Dad.
Yeah, so just your dad helping him.
Yeah.
And at what point, you know, was there a change where things kind of got worse, where your dad was like, I need more help, I can't do this on my own, or...
Yeah, so, well, Dad was more thinking long-term and what it's going to look like, because he's not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
He didn't want to put that on the rest of the family as well. I mean, I was there in Toowoomba, in the Sunshine Coast, so was my little brother. My mum's out of state, and so he was thinking long-term. And then obviously for his, like, my brother's independence as well.
Yeah.
So he ended up looking at like what supports were around and got him engaged in therapies. Obviously mental health were heavily involved, and I think they also talked him through what options he had when it came to support for him as well. Yeah. Yeah, which one being the NDIS. So obviously he was engaged with that, which is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then,
And so how long ago did he engage the NDIS?
It would have been not too long after that.
Yeah.
Not too long after. I would say within the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess your dad is very much like a forward thinker, a planner.
Yeah.
He's a businessman. He's done a lot in his life, so he's always thinking next steps. So
absolutely,
I guess in terms of making sure that your brother's set up, he wanted to make sure that, you know, he was going to be in the best possible place ever. Yeah, for sure. And so they started planning like housing, like independent housing, and a support network around him that excludes Dad, so where Dad can be a dad again. Yeah. Rather than his like support worker or person he goes to when he's feeling paranoid or hearing voices or whatever. He's got someone else he trusts. Yeah. That he can go to if he does need support. And so like, I'm obviously aware that your dad moved overseas. What would probably be nearly 2 years ago now, right? At least.
Yeah.
And so leading up to that, obviously your dad spent time to build a network around your brother. So then, I guess how does he then go from, you know, to then moving overseas and completely kind of removing himself, and your brother being somewhat okay? Like, I know that there were points in time where he wasn't, and he was definitely triggered by, you know, I would just be speculating, but probably abandonment and him leaving and things like that. But, you know, from what I understand right now, he's stable and he's doing really well. So how did he go about setting that up to be able to step away? Because I think a lot of family members really struggle with how do I not let my child feel like I'm abandoning them, but I also want for them to be independent, but I want mine back.
Yeah,
like that,
absolutely.
That battle.
And it's hard. And I can see how it's hard for parents or family members as well, sort of transitioning a close one to where they've always been their main support and putting trust in other people to take over. and sort of gain your life back as well. For some people, not all people, but some. So I think there was a lot of, it's sort of the way it landed. It had to happen because obviously Dad made the decision that he wanted to go overseas, which he could. Like, he's worked so hard for his whole life.
Yeah.
He's retired now. That's what he wanted to do, and why not? And I think my brother never wanted to stop him from going, but it was that heartache of him leaving, and then who am I going to trust now? Like, I can trust that I can go to you and tell you that I'm hearing voices or I don't feel well mentally.
Yeah.
So who's going to be that person?
Yeah.
So first he obtained some housing commission, and obviously my brother leased that home, and he was so lucky he knew someone in the housing commission department of the government, and they told him that they were building new units close by my dad's house. So they were able to get a spot there, which was really cool because it wasn't your standard housing commission house. Like, it was quite nice and new, and I think that reduced my brother's paranoia.
And not far from each other too.
Yeah, and the location.
Yeah.
So they obtained that, and then throughout that, Dad actually left his house and he moved in with my brother to start with. Yeah. And it was because he had to start renting his house out in preparation for him to move overseas. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I'll move in with you and help the transition. Yeah. So they were both living in this unit for, it was probably like 6 months before he left. And then throughout that 6 months, Dad engaged a support worker who is incredible and would be lost without him. He's so good. But he's also a recovery coach. Yeah. So he's got those skills in that mental health realm. Yeah. And so over that 6 months, they really started to build that relationship. And then Dad felt, he never had a ticket booked, but once he felt it was okay to go, that's when he booked his ticket and he left.
Yeah. And there was definitely some regression in that phase of, leading up to him leaving. Yeah. And then once he did leave, what did that look like?
So you're right when you say, well, he went to a therapist and they spoke about the last couple of months that Dad had left and sort of unpacking that more. And they really dug it down to that it was the fear of abandonment. Mm-hmm. And it stems from the breakup from when he was a young child. Mm-hmm. So whenever Dad, even if he comes and visits and he leaves, my brother will regress in some form.
And that's so hard, right? Because like, you want to maintain the relationship, and like when your dad's here, I'm sure he wants to go and visit him. But then that puts your brother in a position of, and your dad in a position probably of feeling bad, but then, going backwards or, bringing up feelings that maybe have been suppressed a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's hard for Dad too because he can't give an exact date on when he'll be back. So it doesn't give my brother hope. I just need to wait till this and he's coming back. Like there's no booked in date when he's going to be back to visit. Yeah. But
I guess it doesn't let him down either.
No, right? And he talks to him every day on the phone. Yeah. And then obviously the support worker, he sort of runs the team for my brother. Mm-hmm. He is in contact with Dad every day with updates on what's going on and how he's progressing or if he's regressing. And then obviously he sees my brother most days as well. And he's really built a good relationship with him, and he's now the bad guy. Like, he makes me do this, he makes me do that, blah, blah, blah. But you can tell that he does really trust him and he feels safe around him.
And I think that's like sometimes really commonly maybe misjudged is if you're the bad guy, that you're like, they don't like you or you're not respected or you're being mean. But at the end of the day, I think from my personal experience and maybe from what you've witnessed as well, the boundaries and the rules make people feel safe.
Absolutely.
And so even though you might be the bad guy initially, in the long term, you actually build a better relationship and you have a better result and a better outcome for the person because they feel safer and they respect you more.
Yeah.
Because, the two go hand in hand, I suppose.
Absolutely. And it's like kids, right? Like you have to have boundaries in place and rules and it makes them feel safe. And it's the same as adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I have a sister that's got BPD, or borderline personality disorder, eating disorder, anxiety, depression. And she, when she was 17, she moved in with me and my husband. And it was really difficult at first when she moved in because, and this is different to your brother's diagnosis, but to try and get her out of the house and even just get her out of her room was really difficult. And long story short, we spent a lot of time putting in place a really structured routine for her. And it was like in the morning, you wake up and you open your blinds and you have a shower and you do your hair and you make yourself feel a little bit better. You brush your teeth, you make your bed, like just these really basic things, or what we see as basic, but I understand it can be really difficult for some people. And then even if that was all she did that day, that was a win. And we slowly over time added stuff to that. And so we went from this teenage girl who was anxious and depressed and in a really bad space. We, every night we would sit down and make sure we ate dinner together, and we'd talk about our day. So the three of us would sit down, and it took away the thought of eating and just conversation. And it was always needed to be positive. And at the start, she couldn't really contribute because she really struggled to contribute. And by the end of that, she was able to, but she also got a job and she got her license and she had a girlfriend and her whole world changed. And that came from us putting in, these are the boundaries and these are the rules in this house. And I guess like her moving from living with my mum to moving in with us was a good reset for like, well, these are the rules in this house. I'm not a cool mum. I am a cool mum.
I am a cool mum, but I have rules.
I have rules. There are no rules in this house, but there is. But that like fully, I believe that completely changed who she was. And you saw her in that, 6-month period, and she was a different person. It was incredible. And
you could even see the pep in her step.
Yeah.
And with that purpose, and she was so proud of herself with the small goal she was achieving. And it could be so small to us, but it was massive to her.
Even if it was like she painted that day, I was like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
And so that was probably like, I think one of my proudest moments of her was how she was able to turn it around. But definitely, having those rules and those boundaries, like I know for a fact that she hated it, especially when she first came in. But she found safety in that.
Absolutely.
And so over time, it created respect and it built a relationship, which is great. And I'm sure that's been the same for your brother.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And even now, the support network he has, they're all on the same page and they've got the exact same expectations from him around what he needs to achieve for the day. Even things like budgeting, like he's never ever saved anything in his life, and now he's got like a good amount of savings in the bank and he won't spend a cent.
Now he's a tight ass.
Yeah, now he's a tight ass. They've got goals to buy a new car. He wants to move out of where he is, so he's got that goal as well. But they're just working through some other stuff at the moment. Yeah.
And that's so good, and it just shows, like, from both your and mine experience, that network of support and the way you structure it, or like scaffold is probably a word we use regularly.
Yeah.
The way we scaffold it in our industry is so important
Yeah.
for the development of and the goal of independence.
Absolutely.
That doesn't get overlooked, because whilst, you know, you might have a support worker that is working with, you know, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, whoever, your partner, there's only so far you'll get with someone like that doesn't have good boundaries and is there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Because in the end, the only person it affects is the person that you're trying to support. And you might be that support worker might be the favourite for a little while, but
that'll
fizzle. It does, and there's absolutely no respect left at the end of that, and very minimal, I guess, gain towards the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that with my brother and this particular support worker. All the time. Like, I was only there for Christmas, and he'd be like, oh, he's making me do this, he's making me do that. But then I'll be like, oh, are you gonna come back over? Because we had a separate house that he came to, and I was like, are you gonna come back over tomorrow? Oh, I've got to check with him. Like, and you can just see that even though the frustration is there around these boundaries and working towards your goals, it's like, oh, but he's my safe person, so I'm just going to check.
And I think what's been like really amazing that I've seen is so since your dad has moved away, and then the rest of his siblings are here on the Sunshine Coast, he goes and visits your grandma, which is just the best thing in her week, I think. Because he goes every week, doesn't he?
Yeah, every Friday.
Every Friday he goes and sees your grandma.
And prior to her, because she had a bad fall recently, or the end of last year, he was going to pick her up and she was staying at his house.
Yeah. So your grandma has dementia. Yeah. And she's 86. And she's an absolute vibe. Yeah. Like, love. Absolutely love. But she lives in a home where she's looked after there. Yeah. And to her absolute, what do they say? Like, she does not want to be there. Like, she would be, she would absolutely be at home if she could be. Yeah. But she's just not safe anymore. Yeah. But her and your brother and their relationship, I think, like, they're so good for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that space.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously grandma's losing her independence, but my brother's gaining his. So, but they sort of meet on the same level. It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, they both get each other. Yeah, but they're going the opposite.
Yeah, I know. But it brings him purpose. So that visit every Friday, or when he was bringing her over, brings him so much purpose, and he's really, really proud of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think too, there's probably like a sense of, even though, like, you know, you're only a phone call away, he's aware that he's really the only family member that's there. Yeah. And so I think, he would feel very, like, maybe even like protective and like, I've got to go because it's my grandma and everyone else is not here, and like, I've got to take care of her, and that purpose is the perfect word.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a really special relationship they have.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when did your grandma think that he was dating you, or like there was something with your grandma, like, didn't she forgot for a minute?
Oh yeah, I think it was she forgot that she thought we were dating, but forgot that we were siblings for a second. Yeah. But as soon as we reminded her, it was,
she's like, oh
yeah. That's right.
Yeah. We actually no grandma. We actually went up to visit Tay's grandma end of last year after she had her fall. And it was actually the first time I've met Tay's grandma. But we were going to deal with some seriousness around, some things that had happened. And we went and saw her afterwards. And people were sort of questioning who I was. And I said we were sisters. And the best thing is that even though her grandma she introduced me to the workers when we were in there. And she was like, and this is, the best thing is those people have no idea that I have never met her, because they think that she's just forgotten who I am. Like, I'm the first grandchild she's forgotten.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
She's got no idea.
She doesn't. She just forgot me. And that's dementia.
She just chat our ears off for hours.
Honestly.
Such a lively person, eh?
And her stories were just funny. I think we were just sitting there laughing across, and she just wanted a pickle sandwich. That's all she wanted. I'm like, someone get this like a pickle sandwich. Yeah. But
for context, she wasn't eating because she wanted a pickle sandwich. So, but apparently it was a big problem to get one.
They bought her every other flavour.
Yeah.
And I think they bought her one out of her three triangles was a pickle one.
Yeah.
It's like, just give her 3 pickles. Don't act like you don't have any more pickles.
Yeah.
Then they come in a bloody jar. But yeah, she's like, and I said, well, do you want me to get them and take these? I just said, oh no, put them in my fridge. Later. Okay.
And the fridge hardly works.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Honestly, it's a makeup fridge.
Yeah.
She's funny.
But we're really lucky too with the support network that my brother has. They care just as much about my brother and his grandma's relationship, our relationship with our grandma, and then her well-being as well.
Yeah. I remember when she had her fall, your brother's team leader, support worker, was like, I'm going there now.
Yeah.
Like he was straight there.
Yeah.
And so, that's that really like family orientated comes, like, just gets it.
Absolutely.
And I think because you and I both have had that personal experience, that's where for us working in this industry is different. And I'm not saying that everybody has to have personal experience to be good or to care, because there are just people that genuinely have good hearts and care. But I think it puts us in a unique position as managers, business owners, leaders in a business, with employees. Because
you lead with your heart, don't you?
You do.
Because sometimes you're like, oh, I just get that.
Yeah.
Like I get that 100%.
And, you might be able to empathise with staff around feeling frustrated with, a participant or, what's going on for a participant. But when you stop and go, I know, but that's their reality. This is really real for them. So I think it's really helped us give different perspectives to training that we deliver.
Absolutely.
Because it's not your just off the internet, by the book training. Like, we're talking from personal experience, and we've got a team of people that have got all different types of personal experience.
That's it.
Where, we'll run a supervision and they're like, well, actually, I know a little bit about this because my brother or my sister or my partner or my cousin, and people can add in. And I think when you're a business owner or, you work very closely with me in running the business, you don't forget that you can't forget that person-centered aspect, because it's ingrained.
Yeah.
And it's part of your life that you can't forget. You can't leave that behind.
Absolutely. And more often than not, I would think, like, making decisions or helping staff navigate a situation, I would think, what if this was my brother?
Yeah.
All the time. And I'm sure you do the same.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's what makes us unique, is I don't think as a business we will ever lose that.
No.
Because the decisions are being made by people that come from different mindset. It's not numbers.
No.
It's just not.
Yeah. And we won't allow it to be.
You can't change that.
No.
We will talk about numbers, but it's not. No, it doesn't come. Nothing comes from that. It's like the numbers are the side project.
Yeah. And they have to be done.
The people, it's part of business.
Yeah.
But the people is what makes and you know, I talk about our business structure and people as the base of that, and that goes for, you know, our staff and our employees. But I think that is what uniquely sets us apart, is that our personal experiences are so
it
deep.
drives it.
Yeah, it's so deep ingrained in us that you can't take that away from us.
Absolutely. It's funny, I think about when I was younger, because my granddad also had bipolar, but I was quite young when he passed. But living with people like that, or having people in your family that are diagnosed with a mental health condition or even a disability, I think you automatically have what's the word I'm trying to think of? More of an open mind when it comes
to like more acceptance.
Absolutely, how you treat people. Even when my brother was smashing up the house, I was like,
yeah, cool.
It is like, this is just what it is. Where I think if you haven't been exposed to that, it's a little bit more hard to understand why they do that as well. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, that was really insightful. And I mean, I know that I've heard the story, and I know your brother and your family and all of those things. But I think that, as I said, people understanding maybe who we are and where we come from in terms of our own personal experiences, and then how we've landed here and how we lead a business and how we run a business, and that the values behind what we do and how we do it every day is very personal. It's not about money or you know, anything else. It's personal. And I think that that's got a lot of benefits, especially in this space.
Absolutely. And as they always say, like, it trickles down, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for sharing, Tay, and thank you for being vulnerable in that space, because I don't think, you know, it's not something that I think that either of us talk about to everybody about, because we just don't. But it is something that is not foreign to us personally in our personal lives either, and I think it's great to share that with people.
I think if anyone, and it goes to you as well, but I think if anyone has questions around that, we would be happy to answer them. I mean, not like we talk about it every day, but I think it's because we've lived with it. It's just the norm, you know? And then if we can answer any questions or help anyone, we'd be happy to.
Or if there's a direction we can point you in, or, you know, maybe you think someone might need help but you're not sure where to start, we can maybe give you some pointers on where some help can be found. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed our story time today of sharing some more of us personally and our personal experiences. And there'll be more to come.
Absolutely. Don't you worry.
That's not going anywhere. All right.
Bye.
We're signing off for today. See you next time.
See ya.